first is Kirk Stobart, who requested to speak to the council regarding Proposition P.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Kirk Stobart, President of the Professional Firefighters of Independence, Local 781. I just want to talk a few minutes about Proposition P in its current format. I believe the wording and the language actually really needs to change. My understanding is that you all have an amendment coming up as well. That language is written a little bit better, but I think the overall tax in its current format is really taking money what it was originally intended for and not putting it where it's supposed to be. So the explanation last week was a very good explanation. I want to go into too deep of details on how that works, but you have local sales tax, and then of course you have the out-of-state internet use tax. And since this is dropping, this is going up, and you're trying to capture that back, correct? So the citizens have voted for, and they were promised, the current designated taxes for capital improvements. So you have the fire safety tax that buys our fire apparatus, fire stations, equipment that we need, police, buys the police cars, the equipment that they need. Of course, you have the streets tax, the parks tax, and the storm tax. And all of those things are coming out of our local sales tax. And all those things, as this level alters and sales go out of the state, these things are becoming increasingly harder to be funded because that money is just not coming in. So what you've proposed is, under Proposition P, is to take the money that was coming here and going out here. Now you're going to take $1.5 million and pay for police officer staffing, personnel, which I believe, everybody here, I don't think you can argue the fact that we do need police officers. I've always been kind of opposed to attach any kind of sales tax to staffing. We've seen what happens when sales taxes drop. You end up having to make cuts, and when you have personnel attached to those sales taxes, then you're talking layoffs because you can't simply not buy a piece of equipment that year. You have salaries attached to it and what have you. The other portion of that is going towards the animal shelter. Quite frankly, this is going to go on a little bit about what I'll talk about later, but I'll just talk about it now. This is a business I don't believe the city can afford. This is you're talking about opening up this whole new shelter. If this tax does not pass, I really don't see where the funding for that shelter is going to go, where it's going to come from. We talked about obviously all the cuts that we're looking at for employee benefits possibly coming up, and I think we need to take care of our people before we start taking care of the animals. So ultimately, this reduction in capital improvements for the streets, parks, police, fire, all these things, if you were to take, say, according to this, the $1.5 million that the use tax is going to bring in, and divide it up into the 5 different special sales taxes that we have, that's $300,000 additional money that should be going towards those things. So I really think we need to go to the drawing board again on this, rewrite the Proposition P language in a way that if we do collect the use tax, then it'll be evenly distributed back into its intended purposes. So appreciate your guys' consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.